Books have the power to take us on wild and exciting journeys that make us co-authors of an imaginary world. But do you know when and where a child starts to become a reader? Is it at school or is it much earlier than the classroom? There is growing evidence that becoming a proficient reader is a process that starts from birth. In fact, some experts say that it starts from the first sounds that are heard in the womb. In this film series, we look at the first steps of a child's development that allow them to read with ease and fall in love with books. Even though reading is the end result, this series will look at the initial building blocks of reading. Phonological and phonemic awareness and basic phonics built onto one another to develop a successful future reader. Phonological awareness. The first step towards becoming a reader is to build a sensitivity to a language's sound structure in the oral language. This is known as phonological awareness. It includes identifying and manipulating units of oral language, such as sounds, syllables, onsets, and rhymes.
Phonological awareness or sensitivity is sensitivity to sound in general, and that includes everything that you hear in terms of language sound. So if you want to talk about building blocks, then the smallest bits of a language, the sounds of a language, are the phonemes. And if you have a lot of phonemes and you have a lot of tone and you have an understanding of the rhythm and the patterns of the sounds, like music, then you are phonologically sensitive. I'm trying to be really phonologically sensitive while speaking to you, thinking I'd better slow down now. This is the type of thing that I have to say faster. Here I have to pause. Now I can go on. It's an awareness of the role of sound, human language sounds in communication.
Phonemic awareness. When children hear the individual sounds of a language, they hear the phonemes. This ability is known as phonemic awareness.
It's an awareness, which means you are conscious of it, of sound. When you are a young child, you hear many sounds. Quite a lot of those sounds are from language. People speak to you, they speak to each other, and you hear them. And slowly your brain starts storing those very sounds. And some of those sounds are very, very tiny. But you hear them never alone. You hear them in combination with other sounds. But all those small individual sounds that a child hears, they get stored and they get used later when you start to read.
For example, separating the spoken word cat into 3 distinct phonemes, k, e, t, requires phonemic awareness. A child with sophisticated phonemic awareness will be able to understand that a word such as bug has 3 phonemes, b, a, g, and she will be able to substitute the b for a h to make the word hug. She will furthermore know that the initial sound changed, but the rest of the word did not. Phonics. Phonemic awareness involves sounds in spoken words. Phonics refers to the relationship between sounds and written symbols. So, phonics instruction focuses on teaching sound-spelling relationships. Children hear sounds and keep them in their memory. These sounds of the language are the phonemes of the language. Because of this, listening is a very important part of the phonological and phonemic development.
If you don't have somebody speaking to you, like the children who stay in these huge daycares where nobody really speaks to them individually, their language really does not develop. Or some households that I know of, rural households, where the culture seems to be that people must be quiet and that children must be quiet, and that the type of language they get to know, the type of sounds they get to know are instructional sounds, discipline sounds. Go do that. No, yes, come here, sit down, and so forth. So they don't have interactive use of the sounds of the language, and therefore they don't pick it up so well. So much as it may be so tiring, I quote my friend again, the more you speak to children, the more sounds they pick up. And at the same time, they pick up language, grammar, syntax, how to use morphemes, how to add to words and change them, how to put them together.
We have come to know more about phonemic awareness through brain research. As humans, oral language is in our DNA. We are born to talk. It is instinctive. Human brains, on the other hand, are not wired to read. It does not happen automatically. Our brains at birth do not have areas for reading specifically. According to French cognitive neuroscientist Stanislas Dehaene, learning to read entails neural recycling. This means that our brains begin to perform functions that are not innate. There is one part of the brain which experts call the visual word form area. Dehaene refers to this area as the letterbox. This small region of the visual cortex recognizes shapes such as letters. Then there are also other areas of the brain that store sounds. When children learn to read, they associate sounds and forms, in other words, letters. Cognitive and educational research also affords new insight on children's reading development.
If you grow up in a bilingual home where people consistently use different languages, two different languages, that wonderful little brain can absorb them.
With these initial thoughts on reading development, in Film 2, we will focus on the teaching of phonological sensitivity and phonemic awareness. Film 3 will focus on the initial teaching of phonics in the classroom.
For more information on this and many other topics on child development, visit the University of Johannesburg's Knowledge for Action website.